for months, there had been these storm clouds gathering. Financial market professionals and journalists and economists kept saying, oh, this problem with subprime mortgages, that's not going to affect the rest of the housing market and certainly won't affect the broader financial system. And then it did.
The Federal Reserve and J.P. Morgan Chase orchestrating a dramatic rescue attempt, allowing Bear Stearns to borrow emergency money to stay alive and prevent a further crisis on Wall Street.
You don't want to go on television and say, okay, the world's coming to an end. Get money and put it in your mattress because your credit card might not work and the banks might go out of business and you might not get paid. At the same time, you want people to know that this is serious and there is going to be pain and to prepare for it. We've never seen a financial system freeze up like that. And it was scary. And there were very seasoned financial minds who were worried about not being able to have access to their money, not being able to pay their workers, having companies go under and factories close. That's what happens in a financial crisis, and that's what happened.
The mortgage business in 2008 was in a massive crisis. There were companies going under left and right. We literally couldn't even get a copier company to give us a lease. That's how bad of a bet the mortgage business was in 2008. So the idea of starting a mortgage company at that moment in time felt insane.
If you didn't lose your house, your neighbor did. I mean, there was so many people losing their homes.
It all came to a crash. It almost shattered and broke the entire world banking system. But more importantly, it broke trust. It broke trust in communities, it broke trust around the world, and we began to mistrust the very banks that held our money. That's the opportunity we saw at Movement in 08 to step back into banking and tell a new and better story in banking, where banks became known for how we love and serve communities, not for breaking trust and robbing that fundamental relationship between borrowers and the banks.
So the banks ended up owning these houses. They had this system of processing loans that was just so slow. We come along and developed a system where, hey, how about we close in 8 days?
Banks were just having a really hard time reorganizing themselves with all these new processes and changes, and we were small and nimble enough to make those changes without too much trouble. That process and that commitment to excellence actually led to then exponential market share gain and growth over the next 10 years, where we grew from about 5 employees to 5,000.
That very first year, we did a whopping $36 million worth of loans, which, when you had done zero previously, $36 million is a lot. We were really proud of ourselves. Every single bit of that business was hard earned.
We get to serve about 1 out of 75 Americans in the purchase of their homes, and we help about 120,000 families a year realize the dream of homeownership. So really early on, Movement had pretty significant success, and the Lord was really convicted me that we weren't just going to take 10% of our profit and put it in a foundation. We wanted to take a substantial portion of our earnings and give it to our foundation. But more than having that capital sit in the foundation, we want that money to hit the street where it was actually doing what the Lord intended for it to do, loving and serving the marginalized. And that took a huge leap of faith. I can tell you, we always could have used a little more capital in the business or a little more capital in the foundation. But we just kind of pressed into what we felt the Lord was leading us to do. And He was always so faithful to provide that next project to love and serve folks.
A movement of change is really about seeing an industry that was consumed by greed be transformed into an industry that is built on loving and valuing people. We exist to love and value people in our industry that then becomes about other corporate cultures and seeing a movement of change spread to other corporate cultures and ultimately be a movement of change in marginalized communities throughout the country. So it's a movement of change that is big and expansive because we have a big God who's doing an incredible redemptive work in the world, and we get to experience this movement of change of a great God who's doing a great work throughout the world that He uses us in.
We were so proud of the culture we had created. You know, in the markets we were in, everybody was bought in to this notion of loving and valuing one another and doing life together and making a positive impact. But the bigger we grew, it was much more dependent on the local hires that we made in different markets. And sometimes we got it right and sometimes we didn't. And so we focused for the next 5 or 6 years on families and relationships, health and wellness, personal finance, and community involvement, and specifically helping our employees thrive in each one of those areas of their lives, fundamentally believing that if we could help our employees live the best version of themselves in those different areas of their lives, that they in turn would bring their best to the job.
So the culture isn't about words, it's about actions. So that's the one thing, because a lot of people will talk culture and it will just be an empty statement and they really don't live through it. And the thing is with movement is, yes, we exist to love and value, but we really do it by our actions, by our what we do in the communities. And that's one thing that you immediately get involved in. As soon as you join an organization like this, people are wrapping their arms around you.
LoveWorks is an employee-funded program currently that helps other employees out when they're having a hardship. Originally, it was started by Toby and Casey. They wanted to figure out a way to invest in their employees in a different and kind of more unique way. And it was really already happening like organically through just the culture of movement, like care about each other and help each other out. At its basic form, it's a financial hardship program, but we really approach it from a holistic standpoint. So we always say that the money is a tool to do the ministry side of the work, which is the relational investment, the getting to know someone, the added resources, not just the bill, being able to like support someone with a bill, but then that added investment of let's get you connected with some counseling if you need it. Let's find a financial coach for you if you need someone to work through your financial situation. Some local support, some small groups through movement, mentoring, or any other local support that would help their overall circumstances. And it's grown because of such a big buy-in from the employees over the years that the fund has grown to a point where it's self-sustaining from bringing in enough to take care of the needs that we've been seeing.
GraceWorks is the match giving, but it's also granting. We enable our employees to nominate charities that they know of, that they're passionate about, to receive grants. And that's big because, while we have schools in Charlotte, and those will start to be opening in other places as well, for our employees in, Houston and in Seattle and in upstate New York, the notion that their organization is going to make a tangible investment in the vulnerable children that are being served and supported in their local community, that's valuable, that's important.
So for us, we exist to love and value people, right, by serving our communities. How do we do that? Not by putting our name on a stadium, but by putting our names on schools and making sure that every customer and every realtor partner knows that they play a part and they're a stakeholder in the mission of movement to serve the communities.
Schools really just grabbed my heart. I mean, they really resonated to me, and I saw a model that was scalable, that was real estate centric, that could create generational change in the kids that we served. But we saw the schools actually as a sustainable platform we could invest in that would create a profit, and it would create generational impact in the lives of the children that we serve.
So I actually thought it was cool that they wanted to do that. Of course, I had questions about how are you doing that? And then worked with the organization to try to weave it together and really make that connection live. And we're doing that now. So for example, staff members, family members, and eventually scholars, when they qualify for a Movement mortgage loan, Movement Mortgage is going to help, their down payment towards purchasing a home.
So if you're born into poverty in Charlotte, North Carolina, 97% chance you will die in poverty in Charlotte, North Carolina. So only 3% of kids that are born into poverty are able to escape that in their lifetime. That is a statistic that we knew we have to address. And the best way to address that persistent problem in our community was through the institution of education.
When you think about housing, education, and these different tools that are were intentionally used to create the disparities, when they come together, that's when you're truly actually, when they come together to work together, that's when you're truly like breaking a cycle. It's like, yeah, you could work on education, but if someone's home environment isn't where it needs to be, they have a step forward with education, but they would have 2 steps forward if you address housing as well.
Having your own home and having the pride of owning that home and the stability around it from the family ethos is so important, man. And so if you take those 2 things, the fact that, you know, being able to create wealth and generational wealth to pass on to your family, and then also just stability and having a home and the pride of owning that home yourself is just 2 powerful things that are life-changing.
When they say love your neighbor, I think one thing that we can struggle with is we try to identify or pick and choose who our neighbor is. And I think that's something that I've learned just since being at Movement is everybody's your neighbor. So whether it's here in the United States, in your backyard, the communities you're serving here, or abroad in Central America, South America, places in Africa that we serve as well, with our communities, building churches, hope centers, and schools.
To be honest, if we weren't a well-oiled machine that is driven to create profit, if we weren't doing that, we wouldn't have the resources to do all the things that we're getting to do. So we exist to love and value people, but the way we do it is providing excellence in the mortgage arena to serve the borrowers well, to serve our teammates well, and then leverage that profit to serve our communities well.
Movement is so unique in the sense that, man, like from top to bottom, from bottom to top, we are so aligned on what we're trying to accomplish. Every leader in our organization, every individual, that they understanding like, hey, we know where homeownership rates are in diverse communities and we need to change that. And we row in the boat in the same coordinates. It's like I always like to say, one band, one sound, right? One sound, one band, and that is the way it is at Movement.
And then if you've got a vision, be diligent in the process. Don't go into the process halfway. And then hold fast to your culture.
Folks a lot of times ask, man, how in the world are you running schools and running a bank and Movement and these other things that you're involved with? And I say over and over and over again, we have an incredible team. And I'm so thankful. A consistent prayer during my journey in this has been, Lord, please bring the people that need movement to us, and please, Lord, bring us the people that we need to accomplish your purposes. And God has been so faithful just to bring these incredibly talented individuals to the school, the bank, the mortgage company. And I wake up every day just pinching myself at the amazing folks I get to partner with in loving and serving the communities that we're called to.